Hi Saints, welcome back to Monday Mentor on this beautiful, beautiful Southern California morning. Hey, I'd like to talk to you about meaningful arguments. Given our civil war and our ideological war that's taking place in our nation right now, I thought I would hitchhike off of my thought last time on perception and talk about meaningful arguments. I want to suggest to you that we don't have meaningful arguments often, we have meaningless arguments. In other words, we don't really know what it is we're fighting about, or the issue gets so convoluted that we move into a vitriolic debate, words that get shared and stated that are insulting and harmful and have nothing to do with the issue that we're talking about. Matter of fact, I'm so disappointed more often than not that we move beyond the issue to just personal insult. We can't even talk about the issue. Somehow, holding a different opinion is idiotic and it makes you less than human. The greatest ploy of hell, I think, in our relationships is to get you and I to just simply demean other people and treat these creations of God, these works of art, whether they're saved or not, as if they don't matter, and as a result insulting the divine artisan himself, which is God. And so I want to talk about meaningful arguments. If you'll permit me to talk about a marriage, often in a marriage you'll have a struggle and a husband and wife will end up in a heated debate and they won't know how they got there. They won't recall what it was that started the argument then. But what fueled the argument was assigning meaning that's not in the argument and misunderstanding the meaning that's being assigned by the other. And so a wife might say to her husband, not that this has ever happened to me, but a wife might say to her husband, you're never home. You don't take time for our house. You don't fix things. You don't do the things I ask you to do. You're always late. You stay too long at work. And so she levies criticism on the spouse. And of course, the man, in this case, it's me. Of course, this has never happened to me. Might hear that I'm not good enough or I'm not doing enough, and so I'm going to go into a defense. I'm going to lay out for my bride all the things that I have done and completely miss the issue. What she is trying to say to me is that she's hurt, she's lonely, she's alone, she doesn't feel loved, she feels exploited, she doesn't feel appreciated for who she is. And so rather than articulating her hurt, she states it in a way that criticizes me. Rather than me, as Proverbs 20 verse 5 says, a person's heart's like deep waters, a person of understanding draws it out. Rather than being a person of understanding, I go into defense mode because now I'm injured. It speaks to my woundedness, my lie that I'm not good enough, and I'm going to defend it. I'm going to rise over her or I'm going to shrink beneath her. Either way, I'm going to miss her heart. And if I miss her heart, I'm going to crush it by my defense. I'm going to miss the issue, and I'm going to speak pretty hardcore about my own performance, and I'm going to miss the fact that she's hurting. She's going to then react to me, and we're going to end up in an explosive dialogue that we won't know how we got there. It sounds so much like our current reality where we have meaningless arguments. We don't understand the meaning that's being assigned by the other, the hurt, the injury. I've often believed that world wars are really wars between two brothers or two sisters, if you will. They're highly personal. Yes, there are ideological differences. Yes, we may never agree on certain things, but that is often clouded and confused by the personal meaning that's assigned. And you cannot heal personal meaning or personal affront or personal injury in an ideological debate. It won't happen. Matter of fact, it will cloud it and move it even further, and our insulting words only enhance it. I want to encourage you in this season of difficult dialogue that you and I become good at this thing called reconciliation. It is, after all, the ministry that you and I have been called to according to 2 Corinthians 5:18 and 19. If we're called to the ministry of reconciliation, to join our Father in the ministry of reconciliation, we ought to become good at being reconcilers. And so I want to encourage you on this day that you might become a person of understanding, to listen to the injury that might be there, to never devalue a human being for holding a different view than you. It's fine for me to disagree with your view. Much like in a marriage, I don't have to like everything my wife likes, but I do love my wife. And because I love my wife, it is easy for me to hear her and to understand where her heart is coming from. may we hear the other so that we can actually debate about the issue. We can actually talk about the thing that we're disagreeing over, and maybe even come to some compromise or a way that we might be able to move forward as a people, as a nation, and God help us as a church as well. So I want to encourage you on this day, be a person of understanding. Listen, give value to people, as I often say, revalue them, redignify them, rehumanize them. Do not devalue them, dehumanize them. That is what hell wants to do. And by the way, it is much easier to hate a human being if you reduce them to nothing more than a principle or an idea. You're no longer human. Keep them human. When they're human, it's harder to hate them. You may not like them, you may struggle with them, you may not like their ideas or their ideology, but it will cause us to treat each other in a way that we might actually move forward and resolve, much like a marriage. Honey, I'm sorry that I'm not giving time to you. Please forgive me. Or the spouse, the wife saying, honey, I'm hurting. I know you work hard, I know you do all these things, but we're missing something here. How do we get to the actual hurt, the personal injury, so we can separate that from the issue and we can actually deal with the issue? Hey, I pray you have a blessed day today. God bless you.